Enterprise digital transformation has reached a critical inflection point. Organizations are no longer executing simple software updates. They are undertaking comprehensive operating model overhauls. SAP's RISE offering operates fundamentally as business transformation as a service. It consolidates infrastructure modernization, cloud migration, and process intelligence into a single, highly governed model. Yet, many organizations are currently in crisis when executing these deployments. Executive leadership frequently miscalculates the sheer magnitude of this shift. They treat a profound structural transformation as a mere technical migration. In this briefing, we will dismantle the vendor marketing hype to examine the stark reality of technical debt, organizational resistance, and the rigorous governance required to stabilize these massive platforms. We are going to focus relentlessly on baseline stability and the human mechanics that ultimately determine whether an implementation succeeds or simply scales failure.
Our analysis today is structured across 4 distinct areas. First, an executive overview of the current landscape. Second, a detailed operational postmortem. Third, an examination of the human blueprint. And finally, a chronological action plan and the necessary guardrails.
Let us begin with the executive overview and the fundamental disconnect at the heart of modern enterprise deployments.
The core thesis of our analysis is direct. Organizational change management must radically evolve to handle autonomous AI capabilities. Historically, implementation methodologies treated change management as a peripheral activity. It was relegated to basic end-user training and top-down executive communication deployed right before go-live. In the contemporary landscape of standard cloud processes and AI-mediated workflows, this reactive posture guarantees failure. We have to strip away the high-gloss finish of vendor presentations to expose the real technical and cultural debt that stalls transformation ROI. The emergence of conversational ERP, where generative AI assistants like SAP Joule serve as the primary interface, introduces a massive shift in human-computer interaction. There is a fundamental misalignment between these autonomous AI capabilities and existing change management protocols. Without a structured, governance-driven framework that embeds behavioral change directly into the technical architecture, your organization is fundamentally unprepared for the risks of an AI-integrated enterprise environment.
To analyze this accurately, we must establish strict definitions for our foundational concepts. Conversational ERP represents the deployment of generative AI assistants to mediate core business processes. This shifts the enterprise user interface away from manual transaction codes and toward natural language synthesis. Clean core architecture is the absolute mandate to prohibit direct ERP customization. It requires externalizing all custom business logic to the Business Technology Platform, or BTP. This preserves upgrade compatibility and allows for rapid, continuous innovation cycles. However, the critical law of deployment is that Phase A stability must precede any AI optimizations. You must secure baseline core integrity before advancing. This means pristine data migration, clean financial ledgers, and strict inventory validation must be absolute certainties before you deploy advanced conversational layers. Process before platform is the non-negotiable sequence.
This architecture demands a profound paradigm shift. For decades, IT departments and specific business units built their perceived value on their ability to create highly customized, bespoke workflows. They owned these customizations. A cloud-first operating model demands the exact opposite. It requires a mandatory transition to the stewardship of standards. This is a severe cultural shock for legacy teams. Process owners are now required to rationalize any divergence from standard SAP best practices, rather than automatically requesting custom development to match their historical habits. The enterprise must evolve its mindset from defending legacy bespoke ownership to aggressively embracing unified, cloud-centric standardization.
We now move to Part 2, a detailed operational postmortem of how these systems degrade.
When process integrity is ignored, system degradation is both predictable and severe. Without structured socio-technical governance, implementations predictably fracture along 4 critical failure modes. First, we see process fragmentation and drift. Resistance to cloud standardization leads directly to manual workarounds. Users build shadow processes that bypass your multi-million-dollar digital core entirely. Second is the governance AI gap. Absent robust control models, organizations face stochastic hallucinations, data leakage, and non-compliant automated actions from AI agents operating without guardrails. Third is adoption inertia. The workforce simply struggles to abandon their customization-first legacy mindset. Fourth is a trust deficit in autonomous systems. If users lack transparency and error handling frameworks within conversational interfaces, they will immediately revert to legacy transactional methods. This renders your entire AI investment hollow.
There is severe operational friction at the heart of the enterprise right now. The legacy bespoke mindset views the ERP as a static configuration system. It is a system modeled entirely around existing and often highly inefficient human habits. The cloud-first operating model, however, views the ERP as a dynamic, continuously governed platform optimized strictly for standard best practices. The organizational resistance we observe in these deployments is not merely a refusal to learn a new interface. It is an active, entrenched rejection of the standard unified operations required by modern cloud environments.
This brings us to a sharp, uncompromising reality. Automating broken workflows merely scales underlying inefficiencies. Implementing an advanced large language model on top of fragmented, undocumented, or non-compliant business processes does not create enterprise intelligence. It simply accelerates the execution of bad processes. Process integrity must come before platform deployment. If your foundational data architecture and process compliance are flawed, layering conversational AI over them will only compound your operational risk. You will not achieve transformation. You will simply scale your technical debt at an unprecedented speed.
We turn now to Part 3, the human blueprint.
To understand why these advanced systems fail at the adoption layer, we must shift our analytical focus to the psychological and operational realities of the workforce. Historically, change management theories assumed a beginning, a middle, and an end. In the 1940s, Kurt Lewin established the three-step change model of unfreezing, changing, and refreezing. This model assumes an organization eventually returns to a stable, frozen state. Later models like Kubler-Ross's change curve or Cotter's 8-step process were similarly designed for leading discrete, isolated change initiatives. The reality of the present moment is that these traditional, discrete models fail utterly in the face of continuous cloud release cycles. With agile sprints and quarterly cloud updates, an organization never refreezes. There is no stable point to return to. Change is now an ongoing, continuous state of operation.
The deep psychological reality of the modern workforce is characterized by severe change fatigue. Employees are no longer facing a single massive IT transition every 10 years. They are facing an ongoing storm of continuous, small changes. Furthermore, organizational resistance is heavily rooted in the defense of identity capital. Employees build their professional identity, their authority, and their perceived job security around their mastery of specific, complex legacy systems. Stripping away those legacy systems directly threatens their identity capital. The enterprise must actively manage this psychological transition. Leadership must guide the workforce as they evolve from rote data entry roles to sophisticated process governance roles.
We must ground this human theory in strict operational reality. The transition to conversational ERP removes the mechanical burden of navigating dozens of module-specific transaction codes. The AI synthesizes data across finance, procurement, and logistics through a single natural language interface. However, this demands a significantly more sophisticated cognitive auditing capability from the user. The conversational assistant is a digital collaborator, not an autonomous decision-maker. Users must be rigorously trained to critically evaluate AI-generated outputs against the digital core. They are responsible for maintaining human authority over compliance and data integrity.
Finally, we move to Part 4, the chronological action plan and the necessary guardrails. Having established the failure modes and the psychological barriers, we will now map out the prescriptive, phase-by-phase architecture required for stabilizing the core and scaling capabilities safely. This architecture maps the technical integration of the SAP Activate lifecycle directly with the ADKAR behavioral methodology. In the prepare phase, organizations must conduct an AI literacy audit and establish an AI center of excellence to define guardrails before technical configuration even begins. This satisfies the awareness requirement. In the explore phase, fit-to-standard workshops must incorporate conversational workflow co-design to build organizational desire for the new model. The realize phase requires knowledge enablement. This means shifting training entirely away from static manuals and toward prompt engineering and human-in-the-loop validation. Finally, the deploy and run phases enforce ability and reinforcement. This requires rigorous post-go-live process monitoring via SAP Signavio to detect operational drift immediately.
To govern this transformation effectively, leadership must establish quantitative metrics to measure operational health. We look at three primary indicators. The intent resolution rate, or IRR, measures the percentage of business needs successfully resolved via conversational interfaces without the user falling back to traditional legacy user interfaces. This indicates clean core adoption effectiveness. Next is the Process Compliance Index, or PCI. This measures the deviation between the agreed fit-to-standard model and actual system usage. It acts as an early warning mechanism for process drift.
Finally, the Model Trust Score provides a qualitative indicator of workforce confidence in AI grounding and data privacy. Each of these KPIs serves as a critical, unyielding governance checkpoint.
These distinct metrics synthesize into a composite governance indicator known as the effective adoption rate. This formula multiplies the intent resolution rate by the process compliance index and divides that product by 1 plus the process drift coefficient. This calculation provides a deep, authoritative reality check for the executive board. It demonstrates mathematically that transformation value is strictly nonlinear. Even if your AI efficiency and IRR are exceptionally high, that value yields sharply diminished returns if process integrity is compromised by unauthorized shadow workflows. High AI resolution combined with non-compliant processes simply means you are executing procedural violations faster.
To maintain a high effective adoption rate, executive leadership must issue authoritative instructions on establishing non-negotiable guardrails. You must establish strict clean core validation gates to prevent legacy-style customization from re-entering the digital core. You must enforce responsible AI charters that guarantee transparency and auditability at every transaction level. You must mandate human-in-the-loop intervention points for any high-risk financial or compliance decisions. Finally, you must deploy BTP-based extension governance. By promoting the secure, enterprise-grade SAP Generative AI Hub, you prevent the emergence of shadow AI, where users inevitably turn to unsecured external language models that create severe data fragmentation and compliance liabilities.
The transition to cloud-native enterprise architectures represents a fundamental reorientation of how organizations derive value from their ERP systems. A successful technical migration is a necessary condition for success, but it is never sufficient on its own. Executive leadership must critically reevaluate their current trajectory. You must focus relentlessly on baseline stability, process integrity, and the socio-technical governance of your workforce. The ultimate question you must answer is this: are you genuinely building a resilient, governed, AI-integrated operating model, or are you simply scaling your existing technical debt under the guise of vendor hype?